is Sarah K. Regley and welcome to my channel. We are talking about marriage and why you think you want it and why you think you don't. With intentional living, it's important that you analyze every facet of your life because everything ties together. And as a young adult, I realized that how someone's view of marriage is really shaped by their upbringing and their experiences and what they have seen, as opposed to the possibilities of what marriage could be. My perception of what marriage was and what I was taught is really different from other people's perceptions. While many of these qualities and experiences could be found by people who have not been married, I put it as a marriage as this is the big reason why they make that specific choice, even though you could very well have experienced similar things and the topics that we're talking about. So without further ado, I'm gonna jump into it. Though these are the different types of marriages that exist and you either have seen, experienced, or maybe know about. So let's get into it. So the first type of marriage we're going to talk about is the whirlwind romance. This is pretty much typified by two people who get married after knowing each other less than 6 months. Some of the beautiful components to it is that if two people are really confident in who they are and they know what they want and they see this person and they know this is the person I want to be with and they just make that decision, there's something really powerful to say about it. They're not afraid of stepping into something deep and important, and they are really confident in who they are. Many marriages have lasted for people who've only known each other for such a short period of time. There's not necessarily a bad thing. However, if this choice is made out of desperation, if you're not in your full mental state, you're emotionally very hurt, if you feel like you attach yourself to someone quickly because you feel like you have no other options, if you're really young and you don't really know yourself, then oftentimes this type of marriage will be as short and end the same way that it began. Some big red flags if you find yourself to be someone who makes these big dramatic choices very quickly and you feel like you know that they're the one after knowing them for such a short period of time, is you really want to make sure you are on the same page with them about the big four. You will have the number of kids, you understand where they are financially, you've met their family, all their family, and you know who your in-laws are going to be, and what are their spiritual or religious beliefs or lack thereof. If you don't have the transparency with them, you don't live in truth with them, you don't know what you're building this on, and it's very much more likely to collapse. The second type of marriage is the I ended up with you marriage. Now, usually this relationship starts with two people who are dating and they like each other. They enjoy each other's company. Maybe they feel like they're in love with each other and they decide, hey, I want to spend time. I want to live with this person. They typically either start living together or they accidentally get pregnant. Because of either their convenience of living together for a long period of time and getting comfortable, or because they have kid or kids and they feel like they want to be the responsible parents, they choose to get married. One of the big differences with this and other examples we'll get into is that there wasn't really an intention on getting married from the beginning. That wasn't something that both parties necessarily wanted. Sometimes one person really wanted to get married the whole time and the other person didn't really want to. But through their familial obligation, they want to be the good dad, they want to be the good mom, and they try to keep it together for the kids. It's characterized by the lack of intentionality, and because there wasn't the intention at the beginning or the desire at the beginning, there wasn't really any follow through to begin with. The normal day-to-day routine for this kind of married couple is, how can we get through the day? How can we get to the next paycheck? How can we make sure we keep the peace so things are okay? It's a very day-to-day mentality, and creating really long-term goals can be a bit of a struggle. If there aren't really kids involved in the I ended up with you marriage, often it's due to a laziness of one or both parties of not really wanting to start over, so I might as well be with you. Or if it's with older couples, they feel like, hey, I can't afford to live by myself. No one will hire me now that I'm in my 60s, so I feel like I might as well just be with you because I don't really have any other options. rather than it being the basis of strength and trying to grow as a couple, it's based off of circumstances and the feeling like I'm obligated to be with you. One of the pros about this type of relationship is that usually both parties are wanting to do the right thing. They're wanting to be the good husband. They're wanting to be a good wife, and they're trying their best to keep things together. However, there wasn't ever the intention of, I wanted to be with you, I want to be married to you the rest of my life. There isn't that work that's done throughout the relationship. It's seen as a day-to-day, get through the routine, and there wasn't the intention of growing, pursuing all the way through. It started as a, I like to be with you now and enjoy being with you now relationship, but it goes on the rocks when you kind of stop really wanting to be with them now, and it's not as much fun or enjoyable as it used to be. It could easily start to feel burdened down by the regular responsibilities of being an adult, going through the challenges of life, and raising kids. All right, so the third type of relationship is the conservative/religious marriage. And this type of relationship is characterized by two people whose cultures tend to be very conservative and pro-marriage. Now, this is can be a very good thing, and it can also be a very bad thing. However, at some point, often the couple feels pressured to get married due to either familial expectation or due to their sexual interaction with each other, whether they live in a culture that is abstinence before marriage, and if they find themselves, as they keep growing as a couple, to become more sexually active as a couple, and they feel pressured to get married because they're becoming more sexually active, or because the culture itself just values marriage above all else, and they feel like there's something wrong with them or something incomplete if they don't get married. Some of the pros about this kind of relationship is if you have two people who come from a similar culture and religious belief system, there are going to be some values that are shared and important, and they aren't going to have to grow through and learn about those values from each other. They're already something that they both grew up with. So it can make some decision making a little bit simpler and communication a bit easier. Some of the cons with this type of relationship is if the couple is very young and doesn't know themselves very well, and they feel pressured to get married because that's what's expected of them, or because they're afraid they're going to break moral or ethical rules or laws if they continue growing together in that way, then there can be the choice to be married may not necessarily be made out of a genuine desire to spend the rest of your life with someone, to grow with them as a couple, and to build with somebody. It could be made because they don't want to be seen as messing things up, or the black sheep of the family, or being the one who has gone astray or made poor choices. When there's a certain expectation of them that that's how they will live their life, they can make clouded decisions based off of either horniness or feeling like they will be shamed if they choose a life otherwise. Some conservative cultures view people as lesser than if they're not married, or as if there's something wrong with them unless they are. And feeling like you are not as full and wholesome as a person because you're not married to somebody should never be a reason that you are with somebody. And feeling like because of your sexual desires are overcoming you, your horniness shouldn't be a reason that you feel like you ought to get married. So, all right, so now we're going to tackle into the next type of marriage, which is the build a woman, build a man relationship. This relationship usually starts off with one person meeting someone and seeing so much potential in them, whether they probably look perfect and they have a fabulous personality. They believe that because they can see so much potential in someone, they create an idea of who that person will become, and they seek after encouraging this person to become this version of themselves that they want them to be. It usually starts off really pleasant because the person who is being encouraged is like, wow, I have the best cheerleader. They love me so much. They're always trying to pour into me and want me to become the best version of myself. And at the beginning of the relationship, the version of themselves of the person being encouraged and the version of themselves that the person who is encouraging are probably very similar. However, what can happen over time is all people are always in a state of change. And as the person who was being encouraged changes, and if they change into someone who is not the version of the person who was encouraging wants them to become, the environment of encouragement can suddenly start to feel like shame because they're not growing at the rate of the encourager wanted them to be. Rather than the home being a place where you feel like you've got your best friend with you who's going to support you and encourage you and help you grow into the best version of you authentically, there's a sense of shame surrounding you because you feel like you are never going to measure up to this person's standards. You are never going to be the version of that person who he or she wants you to be. And this can create very deep trouble because the person who was encouraged to become the partner's version of who they wanted them to be, when you start to feel shame and resentment and start to look in the mirror and think, this person doesn't even know me. This person doesn't even like me. They don't even know who I am because they're so busy trying to make me become somebody who I'm not. This can happen where a young woman sees a man, he's the most handsome man she's ever seen. He has a fabulous personality. She loves how he makes her feel. And she sees if he just has some encouragement and just some help, I can give him the tools that he needs in order to grow. I will do everything I need. I will be the best wife. I'll show him I'm the best wifey material. I will pour everything I have into this man. And what can happen is if that man does not grow at the rate she wants him to, or he just stops trying and he doesn't meet up to her standard, that man will start to feel shame in her presence because there is no amount of encouraging, begging, pleading, nagging, any and all that will change somebody. This can happen when a man meets a woman. He says, I want someone to be a stay-at-home mom who's going to love my kids, who's going to just create a good home, and I'm going to create a big income so we can have a happy, comfortable life, and these kiddos are going to have their mom around them, and that's the most important thing. And when they first get together, that may very well be her desire too. When she wants to go back to school and she wants to start to work again and she wants to build a different kind of life than what he wanted her to be, and there is no encouragement of that, you have to recognize that his view of who she should be is different than who she wants to become. So if you're dating some dude who wants to be a rock star and further down the road he decides he wants to teach music to middle schoolers, you have to know yourself, do I actually love him as a person who's always evolving, and am I going to continue to pursue loving this person as he grows and changes and his desires? Or am I going to hold on to this old view and this idea of a person who I wanted them to become? All right, so getting into our next type of marriage, which is the convenience marriage. The convenience marriage comes from one party providing a type of life that the other party wants. There's something that one person is giving in the relationship and has that the other person wants, and they want it so much that they are willing to be married in order to have it or keep it. Whether this be a lifestyle, a sex life, they want security, they want children, they want to maintain proper public appearances, they want arm candy and someone who looks handsome or beautiful on their side as they go through life. They will stay together in order to maintain these desired attributes. Some of the pros and why people will do this is that being married to someone, particularly someone of influence, can open a lot of doors for you. You can meet a lot of people who can help you in maybe your industry. You have someone who automatically gives you more street cred because you're with them. And for some people, they personally care more about having a certain type of lifestyle and appearance than they care about having a different type of relationship. And so they will hold on to this type of relationship. They will at least keep the title of their relationship in order to maintain these perks. Some of the big cons about this is that, is it truly love if you're being with someone just because of what they can provide for you? Is that person coming from a really damaged place because they just want some of the things that you give to them, rather than truly loving who you are, like body, mind, and soul. And there's also the moral question of, what if one person is madly in love with the person who's staying because it's convenient? And then you have one person who genuinely is trying to pour everything they can into this other person who is just there while it benefits them. As soon as it stops benefiting them, or they find a better option, then they're out. Recognizing your motivations for being in a relationship are going to be one of the main factors in seeing, like, do I truly love this person, or do I just love what they provide? Do I love them, or do I love how they make me feel? Do I love them, or do I love the perks of being with somebody? And sometimes you might not always be able to know this from the beginning. Rather than necessarily judging yourself, ask, am I being my full, authentic self with this person? Can I be 100% genuine? That's a question that only you can answer. And the last marriage that we're going to talk about is the oneness marriage. Now, the idea of the oneness marriage stems from the old traditional vows of, and the two shall become one flesh, which sounds kind of weird when you think about it. You're like, are they talking about like sex or something? Like, that sounds odd. But as an adult, as I've put more time and energy into learning about these things, it's more along the lines of their mentality, their mind, body, and soul are connected to this person. They see each other as partners. They have a common purpose as to why they're together. They have common goals. Throughout the relationship, there is this state of pursuing this other person. Their whole attitude is to continue to pursue this ever-changing person in front of them, because they recognize that the relationship will die if they're not continuing to pursue and grow in it. There's a mentality of an us against the issue mentality, as opposed to you against me. They see each other as each other's other halves, and they're always checking in with one another as to making choices and making sure they're of the same mind of how they're going to spend their time, how they're going to spend their money, how they're going to get through life. There isn't a your half and my half, you'll do this, I'll do that agreement situation. Everything is combined. They combine their finances. They see everything as a, how can we best build our life with our kids? The communication is truthful but mindful. They learn each other's quirks and tics as to when to communicate certain things and what is a good method of communication for that particular individual. People who have a oneness type of relationship usually start the relationship of wanting the same thing. They both want to be married. They both want to have a lifelong partner. They both want the same things. On the big four, they are on the same page. They have talked about the kids. They're on the same page of religious and spiritual beliefs. They're on the same page with money. They have open communication, and they both know each other's families, and they're on the same page as to how they want to raise their families. So the reason this is such an important thing for living intentionally is, if you want to be married, or if you don't want to be married, understanding why you believe those things and what are your motives behind those choices. Being married or not married isn't a good or bad thing. There's no one person isn't better than another. It's understanding your motives for why you want something or you don't want something, and learning to have a truthful relationship with yourself. And if you want a certain type of marriage, how can you grow into that person who can have that? Because it's a journey, and anybody who's been married a long time, people who've had what you would call a successful marriage, knows that they went through many phases. And many people may start a relationship or a marriage one way, but through intentional choices, it evolved into a completely different kind of marriage throughout time. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. My name is Sarah K. Regley, and if intentional living is something that you're interested in, and you're interested in these types of topics, go ahead and subscribe. And in the comments down below, do you want to be married or do you not want to be married? And What made you come to that choice? Go ahead and write it down in the comment section down below, and we could talk about it. And might be mindful of, this is a place of encouragement where you want to inspire people to grow into the best versions of themselves, not a place to condemn or put anybody down for maybe wanting a different type of life than what you personally want. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Bye!